Welcome to Tinfoil Tidbits Episode 2. Tinfoil Tidbit number 1. Wardenclyff was 100 years ago. The idea of the Wardenclyff Tower providing free wireless electricity is nearly 100 years old. We know the story of J.P. Morgan. If I can't meter it, I don't want it. Is everyone okay with that? And then we have this little meme to the right, 1993 and 2013. Well, wake up. Why do we still use the same gas engine we used 100 years ago? The iPhone replaced so many devices and converged them all into one, yet we still use the same gas engine. Tinfoil Tidbit 2. Why are these conspiracies more popular than others? Chemtrails, GMO, Flouride, vaccines, Fema Coffins, martial law, police state, global depopulation. Fairly disinterested in these topics. I used to be interested in them back in like the mid 2000s, early 2000s, but not so much anymore. I think Alex Jones just made too many documentaries on it. Social networking story, and I'll get to that, but there's something that hasn't been talked about, at least I never saw it. When MySpace went live, suddenly people gave up their privacy. And what I mean by that is before that, if I put somebody on the internet, like a picture, people were like, no, I don't want to be on the internet. Don't put my picture on the internet. But then after MySpace came out, everyone started making their own pages and everyone was cool with posting pictures on the internet. Why, when I wanted to do it, it was no good? Why, when MySpace came out, suddenly everybody was okay with it? It reminded me of this seatbelt story. When I was in first grade, prior to this seatbelt PSA that came out, anything the government or the schools or the local government wanted people to do, people would just believe it as propaganda or like, yeah, right, like I'm going to do that. But then one day the seatbelt law came out. And the next day I saw people looking like zombies all wearing their seatbelts, complying. Prior to that, they were like, screw that, I'm not doing it. But after the seatbelt thing, everybody fell in line. I don't understand it to this day. Like, people hated wearing seatbelts, and this is like the mid-'80s. But once it became like a law, everyone was complying. I don't know. I'm doing a poor job of taking you back to that time. It was a strange thing, and one day I'll understand it. The exodus to Facebook in a week. So once everybody got on MySpace, all of a sudden Facebook used to be like for South America and college students, and then all of a sudden Facebook was for everyone. And everyone ditched their MySpace accounts and created Facebook accounts like nearly instantaneously. The entire transition, it seemed like it happened within the course of a week, and nobody even went back to MySpace. There's something going on there with that, how they got everybody to transition. You tell me, do you remember that? How did everybody jump off MySpace for Facebook? I believe those MySpace AI surveys that came out, well, the MySpace surveys were actually AI, and they were collecting all kinds of human input into like this big centralized database. One day we'll see the AI that came out of it. We did like hundreds of years of programming for free. Snowden, limited hangout, but made it okay to talk tinfoil. Prior to Edward Snowden, I used to always talk about, surveillance and data capturing and all that. Everyone's like, you're a weirdo. The day Edward Snowden came out, suddenly it was okay to talk about government surveillance, and everyone was like given permission to have this conversation. I think it's really lame on people's behalf that they have to be given permission to have a conversation. So I'm giving you permission. Talk about anything you want. I remember a story of Mystical, the rapper, getting out of prison. He had gone in, I think during at the end of the Bush administration, and came out in the second Obama term, and he was blown away at how society had changed so much from people being, about their personal privacy to just putting it all on the internet. And he noticed a bunch of different things. Fashion changed. I think it was the whole social networking that threw him off. Twitter, I guess, didn't exist yet. He didn't have a Facebook account. Instagram, all that stuff just blew him away. It was interesting to hear his perspective of him not seeing the evolution take place. He saw the leap of it. So I don't know if you can find that interview, but it's interesting to hear his perspective. And then the social networking story that I was going to say, yeah, I probably shouldn't even tell it, but basically I was told in 2002 this was going to happen. It was during the Total Information Awareness that came out after 9/11. Basically, I think total information awareness transformed into social networking. That way they could keep the data a lot more up to date. Anytime you're in different programs like iTunes or whatever, and you get these like, please update your information, they make it seem like they want you to update your information with their company to give you accurate information. But I think it's basically saying, hey, the government needs you to update your own personal record. Could you please do that? Thank you. I don't have any proof of that, but that's my theory based on what I heard. Basically, I heard that people won't surrender their info to the government, but they'll surrender information to the corporations. So the corporations get some kind of deal where they get a kickback where they transmit their information that goes into this big central database. I don't know if it's Promise or Prism or what, but that's the deal. So like hotels, airlines, gas stations, they all kind of like go back to the main mothership, and then they get like consumer data reports and they get something out of it. I don't know the full deal. It was a long time ago I was told this, but that's the deal. Obviously, it doesn't make much of a difference to me. I post everything on YouTube and on Facebook and whatnot, so I'm not like this crazy paranoid person that doesn't want any of my information public. But if it's sneaky operations going on, I just think it should be known what you're doing when you're getting yourself involved in. Tinfoil Tidbit 4, Akasha Ether. Well, the akasha, the akashic records, where supposedly all of our offsite storage of our memories goes. It's the Hall of Records. And the ether is very similar. I guess I put these here to make a video on them. I don't know. But they're great topics. I love hearing about the akashic records and the ether. Ether means a lot of different things to a lot of people. In fact, the other day I was reading something about, I think it's called the noosphere, N-O-O-sphere, and the idea sphere, which is kind of like the ether and the akasha. Just basically, where do all of our thoughts go, the collective conscious? And most importantly, what are some techniques of accessing it? Tinfoil Tidbit number 5, analemma. This is the pattern the sun makes across the sky over the course of a year, and it takes the shape of a figure 8 or the infinity symbol, and maybe where the ancients got the symbol from, because to them it was this infinite loop of the sun going around the earth, or at least the sky. And this is a time when they believed the earth was flat and stationary, kind of like we're starting to now. Tinfoil Tidbit 5, Future World, Westworld. There's two movies besides Westworld. There's Future World and Westworld. And I guess all these films like Matrix and 13th Floor trace back to World on a Wire, which was a German film. It was like 4 hours long. You could watch it on YouTube with subtitles. And that also, all that goes back to this book Simulacron 3, or Simulacra. Worth checking out if you're into simulation theory. All right, Tinfoil Tidbit, I think number 7, George Meeks. I don't know if I covered this in any of my previous videos, but George Meeks is worth looking into, especially if you've seen the movie White Noise. So George Meeks, from what I remember, invented an improvement upon the air conditioner, and it made him a billionaire. And him and his wife, I guess they didn't have any kids, and near the end of their life, they started up this like compound or like an apartment building, and they invited scientists to come study the paranormal and quantify it and perform experiments. They made this device called the Spiricom, where they were able to supposedly interface with a dead NASA astronaut from the 70s. And they also created this light bulb that didn't have the visible light spectrum, and they put it on in a room, and they took all these photographs and captured like ghosts and stuff. It's where the term EVP, electronic voice phenomena, came from. And him and his wife, they found out from interacting with all these people from the other side that there's like this station that the other side uses to communicate with the living. So when his wife was about to die, George said to her, he's like, hey, go to that place that they talked about and send me some messages so we could prove this. So she supposedly went there and I guess sent him like an email with this strange picture and had flowers delivered, if you believe that. Interesting story, George Meeks, Spiricom, look it up. Tinfoil Tidbit number 8. So back before the iPad came out, I bought the Kindle DX for like $489 or something insane like that. and it had the whispernet. It was like this ability to transmit or download through the internet on 3G. They called it the whispernet. And I just wondered, like, how am I getting this 3G internet for free? Because they had this rudimentary web browser built into the Kindle. It was really bad, pretty unusable. But still, I was getting free internet. And it just kind of threw me off. And I was like, how did Amazon invent their own internet? So it's just something out there. If you're into IT and stuff, you can look up the whispernet. I'm sure there's a good explanation. And for our final tinfoil tidbit for this episode, turning on the lights in dreams. I saw the movie Waking Life like 10 years ago, maybe more. And in one of the scenes, the guy says, hey, if you're ever dreaming and you want to figure out if you're dreaming or not, turn on the lights. They won't turn on if you're in a dream. And I figured, well, man, if I'm ever in a dream and I want to see if I'm dreaming or not, I'll turn the lights on. I wasn't sure if it would work. Sure enough, I was in a dream and I turned the lights on. And the funny thing was, in the dream, I thought I was awake. And I remember in my dream, I was like, I'm going to prove I'm awake right now. I'm going to turn the lights on, like I remember from Waking Life. And I turned the lights on and the lights didn't turn on. And I was like, are you kidding me? I'm really dreaming right now? I thought I was awake. And I kept flicking the lights. I went to like another light in my dream and none of the lights would turn on. And then I was like, gee, I'm actually asleep right now. And I think I woke up at that point. But try it out. Actually, if you haven't seen the movie Waking Life, it is a one-of-a-kind film. It's great. Ethan Hawke is in it. A couple other famous... Alex Jones is in Waking Life. So, yeah, Waking Life is definitely a movie everybody should see. It's different. It's just a philosophical movie of people just having conversations about existence, about all kinds of cool, thought-provoking topics. It's not all awesome, but still, I give it credit for trying to do something new. And I think the sequel to it is Scanner Darkly. Anyway, that's it for Tinfoil Tidbits Episode 2. If you have a tinfoil tidbit, drop it in the comments below or reach out to me somehow. I'll see you next time.